Netflix's latest dark comedy series, Bodkin, is often like the small Irish town that it is set in, warm, homely, and yet full of complications and mysteries. Following a team of 3 podcasters who travel to the town of Bodkin in order to report on a 25-year-old unsolved mystery, the series is as dependent on the characters as the plot. Overall, Bodkin makes for a fun and entertaining watch, although its style of taking serious routes at times does weigh down its appeal to some degree. What are the problems from Dove's past? From her very first day at Bodkin, Dove starts seeing a mysterious wolf dog in certain scenarios, which just sits and observes her from a distance instead of showing aggression or any other emotion. When it is revealed that the animal is actually visible only to Dove, meaning that it is only her imagination, it becomes clear that the wolf dog has something to do with her past. Dove was born in Ireland, and she was indeed named Dubiasa Maloney, but her childhood was extremely tragic. As a young girl, Dubiasa did not have a father, and her mother was terribly addicted to drugs, to the extent of her not being able to keep her daughter. As a result, the woman got Dubiasa admitted to a convent, hoping that the care and love of the nuns would help the girl grow up. However, little Dubiasa yearned for her mother's love and company, and the realization that she had been abandoned terribly hurt her. Life at the convent was no better either, as she was forced to participate in religious duties, and strict rules were enforced upon her, all of which the girl hated. At this time, Dubiasa was repeatedly told that her mother would soon return to take her back, and the girl also believed it, and looked forward to this event. But it obviously never happened, and although the mother did visit the convent once later, she apparently could not just meet her daughter out of embarrassment and grief. As a result, Dubiasa grew up with the false hope of having a family, and a toy wolf dog was her only true companion. These years were extremely traumatizing for her, and these memories and the associated pain return to adult Dove in the form of the imaginary wolf dog that she sees. One day, during her teenage years, she sneaked into the chapel alone in order to smoke a cigarette but accidentally set the place on fire. Dove knew that she would have to escape, or else all the blame would be put on her. Out of fear and desperation, she escaped the convent and left Ireland as well, somehow reaching London and starting a new life there. In fact, the stories about the incident that spread in the country were that a teenage girl had set fire to a convent and escaped, whereas in reality it was merely an accident, and Dove was no arsonist, as she was portrayed. These events from her younger days also instilled a great sense of hatred and distrust about nuns in Dove's mind. What is Seamus Gallagher's real identity? Seamus Gallagher, whose real identity is Jack McFadden, also known as Badger, is a notorious smuggler now living under a false identity in Bodkin. Previously, alongside his brother Malachy, he led an illegal smuggling operation of drugs and weapons in Northern Ireland. By leveraging a local's romantic interest to secure cheap land, they faced off against their rivals, the McArdles, who owned Semtex explosives. The brothers managed to get the McArdles arrested and took over their business, but the release of the McArdles following the Good Friday Agreement complicated their plans. Seamus killed one of the McArdle brothers, making them lifelong enemies. Currently, he continues his criminal activities with an illegal eel breeding and selling business, while 2 Interpol officers investigate in the area. Who had actually killed Fiona and Malachy? The mystery of the disappearances from Samhain 25 years ago was finally solved by Gilbert, Dove, and Emmy because of their individual interests. Firstly, they learned that one of the 3 who had disappeared was a teenage boy named Teddy, and he had returned to the town 3 days later after being found by a nun. While Teddy was a bright and intelligent boy, he was clearly not the same after his return, as his brain had been affected by something. The remaining 2 were a schoolteacher named Fiona and Seamus's smuggler brother, Malachy, and both of them still continue to be missing. Learning that an accident had taken place on the night of the festivities, which was then suspiciously hidden from the public, the 3 managed to salvage an old car from the nearby bog. It is clear that the car had been intentionally dumped in the bog with 2 dead bodies in the trunk, and the owner of the vehicle, Rory Power, an ex-police officer, becomes the suspect. However, a different truth is revealed by the end of Bodkin, shocking many of the townsfolk, which also explains why most of them wanted the mystery to remain unsolved. Seamus was actually in love with Fiona, and the 2 were in a relationship as well, although the woman was not very convinced about it. When the McArdles returned to take revenge against Seamus on the night of Samhain, he called up his brother, Malachy, and told him to escape to somewhere safe along with Fiona. Their close friend, Rory, was there to help them escape, but only Malachy ended up at his house because he could not find Fiona. The police officer went in search of the woman to no avail and returned home only to see a horrific scene. Rory's son, Teddy, was infatuated by his teacher at school, Fiona, and he had some arguments over her with Malachi. The teenager, having no sense of his own strength, had struck Malachi with a brick and had accidentally killed him. Rory rushed to hide the crime by dumping Malachi's body in the trunk of his car and driving towards the bog when he accidentally hit and killed another local woman named Greta. Thus, he had to put her body in the trunk of his car before dumping it into the bog. However, Fiona made use of this chaos to get as far away from Seamus as she could, since the man would never let her leave otherwise. She asked for help from her dear friend Maeve in escaping to Wales, but as they were preparing to sail away in a boat, Teddy arrived at the scene looking for his beloved teacher. Fearing that it was Seamus, Maeve hit the boy with the boat oar hard enough to cause a severe brain injury. In order to help him survive, the two women quickly rowed to the island of Inishmactyre, where there was a convent for nuns specializing in nursing. 3 days later, Teddy was in better health and was sent back to Bodkin, but Fiona still stayed at the convent. Realizing that her window of escape was over and Seamus was desperately searching for her, she decided to stay put with the nuns, especially since she was pregnant with Seamus's baby. A few months later, Fiona died at the convent during childbirth and was also buried there while the baby was alive and well. It was a nun at the convent, Edna, who agreed to adopt the baby boy, and she returned with him to Bodkin, telling everyone that she had adopted the baby from Romania. This boy grew up to be Sean, and he is actually the son of Fiona and Seamus. Edna and Maeve both wanted to keep this whole matter a secret, knowing well how criminal-minded Seamus was, and this is why they set fire to Sean's car and Seamus's boat in order to scare the podcasters away and to hide the secret forever. While the death of Dara, who also happens to own the Holy Land on which the Samhain festival is held, is initially presented as a murder, by the end, it seems like he died of natural causes, as no mention of it is made. The only other possibility is that Seamus killed Dara out of fear that he would tell the podcasters about their past association, although that seems unlikely. What happens to Gilbert, Dove, and Emmy? During Bodkin's ending, Dove manages to strike a deal with the Interpol agents, helping them arrest Seamus Gallagher in exchange for her own freedom. The Semtex that Seamus and his brother had stolen from the rival smugglers was never sold off and is currently still hidden inside an underground cave under the land where Samhain is celebrated. Seamus tries to flee on his boat, but is ultimately faced with a situation where Interpol wants to arrest him on one hand, while the vengeful McCardles wants to kill him for his past crimes. In such a situation, Seamus chooses to simply detonate the bomb and create a distraction, which does take down the McCardles. Although his fate is not clearly shown at the end, the fact that Dove is out free suggests that Seamus Gallagher is finally arrested by Interpol. Gilbert decides to leave his profession as a podcaster, and he even throws away the recorder on which he had secretly taped a lot of the crucial conversations about the case. Although clueless about what he would do in life next, the man decides to stay away from the unethical and questionable choices that a podcaster has to make to fish out information. Emmy gains enough confidence to pitch herself to be an investigative journalist at The Guardian, and she fills the spot left empty by Dove. Since Dove cannot return to England, she is fired from her job, and she gladly stays back in Ireland, herself turning into a podcaster. Having realized the importance of embracing one's past no matter what, she returns to the convent where she had grown up in order to document how the place ran. Much to her pleasant surprise, she is welcomed back to the place, meaning that the nuns hold no grudge against her for the accident she had caused in the past. Everything we know about the premiere date of Bodkin Season 2. So far, Netflix has not confirmed whether Bodkin will have a second season. As of early May 2024, Netflix had not given the green light to Bodkin's second season. Since the series has just premiered, it's likely that Netflix will evaluate its performance with viewers before deciding on the future of Bodkin. The streaming giant usually lists its limited series as such, and Bodkin does not have that label. Therefore, we can speculate that Netflix and the creators of the series probably have a long-term plan for the series. Likewise, its official release date is unknown, but it is likely to be between mid-2025 and early 2026,